We could not get other members of our group into Restream properly. So I'm doing this on my own today, and I don't know why. And they came in and everything's fine. And then I clicked, hey, show you in the room on the stage. And then it was a black square without any image. So who knows? And I don't know if this is going to turn into a technology rant, but it might. This conversation right here, because this has gone on since I discovered technology. And as I built these different companies and businesses and products over a lifetime, the barrier's always been the technology, and the necessary platform to be able to do what I wanted to do was in the technology. So that's a dilemma. And it's still happening today. And I look at how complex the technology platform we have put together for this entrepreneur experience product that I've got, this video metaverse campus, Discord community, as well as Go High Level, which is the architecture for the content system we've got, all of the community membership management things, the integration with Stripe for checkout, and blah, 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 blah. I'm sure you know how all of these things work to some degree if you've been in business for more than 5 minutes. And what I find is that every time a browser company, Chrome or whatever, does an update, everything else breaks somewhere else. Things have to be redone. And it's just a never ending cycle. And I went through this yesterday. I have someone in the Philippines who is absolutely not a virtual VA in the Philippines, someone who is an integral part of our company that I could not do this without. I can't pay. I've been trying to pay her for 2.5 days. And the payment processing company cannot figure out what's wrong. And I'm trying to pay her. And it's telling me I don't have enough credit line on my credit card, which isn't true. So I check with the bank and they're like, no, it's fine. I'm like, okay. And then I get on the phone with the credit card or the payment processing company, and they're, like, well, we'll escalate you and you'll get a call back in 4 hours to our second level tech. I don't get a call back. And then I get on the phone with them the next day and they say, well, you'll get a call back in 4 hours. I still haven't gotten a call back in 4 hours. I'm trying to pay this person overseas. They take a lot. They take a lot. And the technology doesn't work right. And sometimes I look and I'm like, is this me? Is this me or is it the technology? And it depends. But I think it's always the technology, because why should I have to adapt myself to the technology? Why isn't the technology adapting itself to me? We had a plan today. Brian, Muka, and Gail Kraft and I were going to talk about what's going on campus. We were in the campus doing a meeting. We did the Invincibility Dojo in the morning, and then we did the More Money Now meeting, and then we jumped into this, and it doesn't work. Did we do something wrong? No. Is it Restream? I don't know. Is it LinkedIn? I don't know. Is it the integration between them? I don't know. Is it the browser? Is that Google's fault? Whose fault is it? Nobody's fault, because nobody's accountable, because it's a bunch of different companies. Who runs the platform? Who runs the technology in the world? I don't know. Big technology companies. I'm at their mercy. We've actually talked about, can we set up some kind of a private back channel in case the whole thing melts down? What if the cloud evaporates? Everything's up in this magical cloud. Well, those are data centers with computers in them, sucking up a lot of energy. And years ago, I had a client that did what was called continuous availability, and they had multiple data centers. So their clients were big banks, and they had multiple data centers, and you had you had it all running at the same time in multiple locations. Because what if there's an earthquake? Well, what if the data centers melt down? What if that's the earthquake? And there's actually a show where something like that happened. I saw way back, Mr. Robot or something, where somebody figured out how to cancel all the data in all of the data centers, and then no one could figure out whose bank account was whose. And I'm like, that doesn't seem so far-fetched. That chaos does not seem so far-fetched. So we talk about, Walking Dead, zombie apocalypse. I'm like, no, that's not likely. I think it's going to be more like the cloud evaporating. Um, why did this happen? And I remember years ago, oh, the other the same company that did the continuous availability business had a business of internet location. What was it called? Fiber. So they were laying fiber all over the United States to make the internet work better. They were investing huge money into this thing, and I think the government was backing it. And I'm like, did you guys finish? Apparently they didn't. Somebody made a lot of money though. But where's the infrastructure? It's not there. It doesn't work. And people are like, well, it's not my fault. Like, you're in the industry. What's going on? Why doesn't this stuff work? I think the answer is obvious. They're not working together. Why don't they work together? They're frenemies. What's a frenemy? It's when you have to cooperate with your competitor. How is that possible? How can I cooperate with a competitor? The minute I get an advantage, I'm going to take it. So if I'm Apple and I own this infrastructure over here, and Google, Alphabet, owns this infrastructure over here, Amazon, AWS, owns this infrastructure over here, and Microsoft, who owns Azure, owns this infrastructure over here, and they all own their own browsers. And then throw in a Meta, Facebook. They got this infrastructure over here of a different sort. And it's all intertwined and interrelated. And then we've got an internet built on protocols. And those protocols are trying to connect all this stuff. Now, I'm not an expert in technology at all, but I'm an expert in trying to survive technology. That I'm an expert in. I've been doing it forever. Since I was probably in my early 20s when it started. And it was Microsoft back then. And I remember dying inside Microsoft Access, trying to figure out how the hell do I create a relational database here for this mom and pop business? I'm working with my mom, my dad, and my grandma. And my dad bought a computer. And I'm trying to figure out, oh my God, we used to have 6 product lines. I took that company on my back and went on the road with it. And in a few years, now we got 15, 20 product lines, 8 salespeople, and went from, I don't know, 50, 60 customers to 500. And, the manufacturers, my grandmother called them vendors because she didn't want anybody telling her what to do. So she's like, the vendors. And I'm like, you mean the people who pay us, Grandma? She's like, well, they want to know how the show went. And she's like, it's none of their business. I'm like, no, they need to make product. They got to go to China. They got to go source this product. They need to know how much to buy. They have to place their orders. See, how'd it go? Like, I have no idea because we can't just look through the file folders anymore like they used to. That's how my parents did it. So I'm trying to figure out how to build a database, relational database in Microsoft Access by myself. And it was a lot of late nights. And then they came out with servers, and I didn't know what a server was. And all of a sudden I got, more than one computer, and people are, I'm like, oh my God, I can't even go through the story because it's so endless, 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 endless. And then I remember when Salesforce.com came out, and I'm like, oh, this is it. Oh, we can put it up in the cloud. What's a cloud? I don't have to deal with the computer anymore. I'm in. And all I have to do is buy a subscription. I'm in. I signed up for Salesforce immediately, and I had to port the whole company onto Salesforce. That was a nightmare. And I'm like, oh, the cloud's complicated too. What's going on in this cloud? I have no idea. All I know is if they can't get that cloud right, I'm screwed. That I know. And if that cloud evaporates, or blows up or something goes wrong, my entire company is over. And I look at Google right now and all my stuff on Google and Google Drive, and I'm like, can this be backed up somewhere else? And I'm like, well, but Google has backups. They have continuous availability all over the world. I'm like, I don't trust them. I really don't. What if it went? When they close Google, I'm going to rant. No, I'm not going to rant. It's not worth it because chaos is part of life. And for me, allowing the chaos to exist became the freedom pathway to liberation as an entrepreneur who's got to pay my own way and deal with all of these infrastructures. And I've been doing this as far back as I can remember without having resources or experts because I can't afford them. Or when I could afford them, they didn't know what they were doing because they knew their stuff, but couldn't see my vision. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. They're like, that's not how we do it. Like, yeah, but that's how I'm going to do it. I'm like, no, that's not how we do it. Like, yeah, but then I can't work with you. I'm like, but yeah, I'm great. No, you're not, because I'm trying to get it to do this. And they're telling me, no, that you have to make the technology work like this. These are the best practices. And I'm like, I don't want the best practices. I have a vision and I want the technology to morph and adapt. So support my vision. Like, well, no, you can't do that. And we did. We did years ago. And created something with a virtual company where pulled some industries together with the technology. So one industry was outbound emailing, another industry was calling. And these are two separate industries, believe it or not. And I'm like, why is that two separate industries? Because it is. Well, I have to accept that. And there's reasons for that are beyond my pay grade. But I do understand that revenue is revenue. So whatever method I could use to get revenue was usable. I'm going to do it. The technology is in the way of that, though. So we had to make decisions. What's the anchoring? Is it the calling part, or is it the outbound email part, or is it the marketing part with content marketing? So you had different systems for each one of these silos. They even had different conferences, inbound conference and outbound conference. And then those companies started bolting on systems from the other industries because they saw it. But they didn't get it because they were coming at it not from having experience in it like we did as a virtual company. 10 years ago, I think, was when that started, maybe longer. And I'm watching, I'm like, what do I do? And people showed up and said, I'll help you. I said, okay, I'll pay you. It didn't help because they were putting me into their best practices based on their perspective of, oh, it's got to be this way, or it's got to be this way, or it's got to be that way. I'm like, but I want to go this way, which is a new way based on opportunities that I'm seeing clearly. And the technology it was a struggle, and still is, to adapt the technology to the vision. So I look at this and I'm like, why, how do I do this? And I think I have an answer, and it's start with the vision always. And I look at, what do I want to do, as if the technology doesn't even exist. I want to create a global movement of liberation mechanics, of people who are focusing on being themselves and profiting from it in the way they want to do that. And that means freedom, satisfaction, happiness, and results on their own terms. So there is no way. So there's no silo at all. It's create it and experience it and profit from it, self-defined. So how do you do that with the technology? Well, you start with the vision. And I thought, what's my vision? Let's just meet. A local coffee shop would work. Not a Starbucks, though, but a cool one. Starbucks used to be cool. Now it's just mid. It's like going to a drive-through, like McDonald's. But I got some cool coffee shops where I live. What if we all meet at the coffee shop? Well, that's not going to work because I want it to be global. It already is global. So it's not going to work at the local coffee shop. Okay, now where do I go from there? And I find this method works best. And then it's a matter of looking and saying, what technology companies are not closed in their thinking? What technology companies are open in their thinking? And I know they don't understand me. I know how Go High Level does not understand what I'm doing. I know that Welo does not understand what I'm doing. I know that Discord does not understand what I'm doing, but I know that they understand that understanding what I'm doing matters. And I know they're flexible. And I know that I own it, not them. And that cloud's not going to turn off on me because they don't think that way and they're not set up like that. I also know that anything owned by Google or Facebook or Amazon or Microsoft, a little less. I'm feel a little safer with Microsoft. I like LinkedIn more than I like Facebook or YouTube. Um, but it's still scary because LinkedIn bans people and they'll do it automatically. And then you got to figure out, oh my God, now how do I deal with this thing? Um, and it could be for permanent for no reason. So I'm not building my business on that, but I'll use it. But I'm not building my business on it. I'm not building my technology business infrastructure on an ad network, Facebook, Instagram, any of these things, YouTube. I don't care how popular it is right now. Good luck. Um, Even if you figure out the algorithms, cut through, get famous, become a YouTube celebrity, they can turn you off whenever they want, and nothing you can do about it. Um, I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. I'm using them, but I did get turned off by one of them, and I opened up again under a different label, but um, I didn't do anything. So people are like, "Well, what'd you do wrong?" I'm like, "You put a scarlet letter on me. They turned me off. I didn't do anything. It's algorithms." So the cops are algorithmic. So you don't get a hearing. There's no judge. The cops are automatic and algorithmic. I don't feel that with Discord. I don't feel that. I feel that with school. Everybody's on school now. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That's two guys. And it's good. I did it a year and a half ago, but I'm not building my company on it because they could decide not to do it. They could decide, oh, we already did this. One of them did. He started a private mastermind for a year and he closed it because he wanted to do something else. And I'm like, no, you're not an expert in this stuff. I'm not going with you. It's not going to happen. I tried it. Good technology. Got it. Love it. Not doing that. Um, However, Discord is awesome, and I love it. And I'm looking at them like, wow, this is gamers who communicate and are love games. They love game. Go High Level. I don't know the Go High Level origin story, but I'm like, this thing is a beast. It's great, but it's hard. Go High Level's hard. We figured it out, but we took a whole team. It took a whole team. Gail, so I'm going to talk about liberation mechanics now. They're not here. I want to do this with other people, but Gail Kraft has a background in Six Sigma and worked for health insurance companies. You can't make a mistake. You just can't make a mistake. It's health insurance and money and stuff. Like she did all kinds of big corporate stuff. So she wrote the back end requirements documentation for Welo, which is amazing technology run by a guy that gets it. So I knew when we first talked, I reached out to him. The minute I saw it, it was too early. So I saw it and I'm like, this isn't ready. And then a year ago or so, I saw it again, and I'm like, I got to find the CEO. His name's Cliff, and I reached out to him, and I'm like, I want in. I don't have any money, so I'm not investing, but I want in. So I got in the pilot, and now I'm paying him. But it's great technology because he gets it, because he has a community orientation and understanding. So I'm like, I'm building on this. Now, if he sells it to a big corporation someday, Apple or it'll be fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Um, but right now, the integration between Go High Level and Welo was very complicated. And it's very necessary because you can't scale without a good integration because it's just a mess. The calendar stuff alone can take 6 months to get right. I remember when I was doing this thing called Solopreneur Inc. Virtual campus, we were using Google's calendar, and people were starting to reach out and saying, I can't get off the calendar. I don't want to come to this anymore, Larry. It's a free event. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't send you anything. And they're like, yeah, you did. I said, no, I didn't. But I finally figured out that in Google's calendar, when there's ever a change made, it updates everybody else on the calendar. And I'm like, oh, you can't opt out. No, you got to take me off so it comes off of my calendar. I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Or if I do it on Google and someone's on Microsoft, there's a problem with that too. And then it doesn't work right. I don't even remember that problem. There's so many problems and I can't even keep it all straight. But then we went to Zoom with that because Zoom has a good calendar function, but I don't want to use Zoom anymore because I don't want to be in a little square. I like being on the campus and Welo, which feels 3D, like being in a co-working space, a virtual global co-working space. And I'm like, I won't even commute to Zoom anymore. It feels like commuting. I worked in co-working spaces for years. I've been in like 7 or 8 of them or something. And my favorite was Industrious in Evanston, downtown Evanston. And there were these two incredible women who ran the place. They wheeled around with carts of like snacks. How's it going? How you doing? Oh, we got this thing in the conference room at 5 o'clock. Oh, wow, thanks. It was great. I love that place. Good coffee, wasn't like Starbucks. Um, if you like Starbucks coffee, don't get mad at me. There's nothing wrong with Starbucks. Now I feel like I'm going to offend people, which I don't want to do. I trigger people. And I don't like it. I'm trying not to, but I trigger people. I know it. And I try not to because I'm saying things that are what I see and what I feel and what I care about. And that triggers people who have belief systems. They're like, no, no, I love Microsoft. I love Google. I love YouTube. I say, I know. I don't care. You could do that. I'm not building my company on it, is what I'm saying. You can if you want. That's up to you. I'm not telling you not to. I'm saying this is my experience of it. They're like, but I love YouTube. I'm like, good. I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just saying you don't have to do it. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying, here's why I don't. And Zoom feels like commuting. So people want to meet me on Zoom, or I'm like, no, I don't do that anymore. Um, because it feels two-dimensional. And I've been on Zoom since they started. We are not right away, but we had a client for the virtual company, the sales outsourcing company in Silicon Valley, who's an Apple product manager or UI UX design expert. Very advanced, smart guy, big clients. We did sales for him, and we were using GoToMeeting, audio bridge conferencing, and it's not a great system. It's super corporate, and we all hated it, and he hated it, and he's like, "I want you guys to use this thing called Zoom." This was years ago, and I'm like, "All right, fine, Paul," because it was Paul, and he paid us a ton of money. So, like, all right, so we get on it. Nobody could figure out how to get their camera to work on our side. So he was patient, and eventually 2 weeks later, nobody wanted to do it. Everybody's complaining. Why do we have to use this thing? I'm like, because it's Paul. And then I realized, no, no, this is good. And it changed the culture of the entire company. I had a global company, virtual employees. No one had ever met each other. All of a sudden, you could see each other on video. It changed everything. Changed everything. And then I'm like, no one will put their video cameras on. So we're trying to get people, our clients. And then I also adopted Slack. So I'm like, I hate email. I hate Dropbox and conflicted copy documents. I'm giving you a history of the technology, a nightmare of my life. Um, and I'm like, this isn't working. Again, client, another client, this guy in New York City, genius level. And he's like, we have this thing called shared documents, Larry, from Google Drive. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I sold that crap years ago from their enterprise division when I was selling AI. I was trying to sell that, not for Google, but we were selling to Google and trying to do a partnership. And it didn't work at all because, I'm not going to get into that. And he's like, I need you to use this because I am tired of getting an email back and forth constantly of which the right version, and you guys are setting up emails with the wrong versions of emails after I've made corrections, and I'm sick of it. I was like, this is annoying, but he's right. So we switched to that, to Google Drive, Google Documents. It was called something else way back then. And the same with Zoom and then Slack. All of these things come and then they go. And that's the hard part. And I thought, isn't this like life? Isn't this like life? So I can either hold on to the at AOL.com email address or the at Comcast.net email address or Verizon.net or whatever, or I can hold on to Dropbox, or I can hold on to Box.com, or I can go on and on. It's a long story, as many of you have experienced. Or I can just keep moving until the technology disappears. And that's liberation. So there are liberation mechanics in the world right now. We're trying to figure out how to make this technology disappear. And it's not easy. And I'm rooting for you. And if you want to come join us, we've got a nice platform of people who think like you do. Technology is water. And when technology becomes like water, the cloud is evaporated. And then all of a sudden, the technology disappears. And then we can really come together at the local coffee shop and everyone can plug into it. Will the technology industry like this? No. Why? Because they won't be able to charge much. It'll be a commodity. It already is. It already is. It's an electrical utility that's really, really complex. And there's a lot of money being extracted out of that utility because it's really complex and it doesn't work together well. That grid is a mess from my perspective. Now I'm talking about an observation. So I could be wrong. I don't know. That's why I didn't say this is my opinion. It's not my opinion. It's just an observation. It's just something I noticed. It just feels like the electricity comes into the house and the lights go on. I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to do tech support on the lights. I don't have to do tech support on my furnace. Sometimes. Why? Because the thermostat doesn't work right because it's in an app. It's run through the App Store. And I'm like, the only problem installing a new Carrier furnace we had was the thermostat. Same with the alarm system. The only problem was the panel. And it's always a problem. It just never goes away. And I'm like, there's something wrong with this for me because I don't want to do tech support on my own lights. I just want them to work. Turn the switch, the lights go on. The technology will become like water. Mark Andreessen said that in Time magazine. If you don't know who he is, he invented Mosaic with Jim Clark, which started the internet access that the world enjoys. Because all of a sudden now, instead of it being a private community of scientists, it became accessible and open to everyone through a browser system that they invented. And then Microsoft took it and turned it into Internet Explorer. I don't know, Netscape. I don't even care about the history. It's not the point. The point is, guys, Mark said, technology's like water. I follow the technology, followed it up into the cloud. That cloud needs to evaporate, Mark. I can't make it do it, but hopefully you guys can figure